Johnson, and this is Focus on Liberia. Hit it! From Cape Mount to Cape Palmer, Mount Nimba to Atlantic Ocean, Obomi Hills to Boakai, to educate, elevate, and promote. Yeah, focus on Liberia, for Liberia, Liberia, for Liberia, yeah. From Monday to Sunday, from Monday to Sunday, it's focus on Liberia. Talk about home affairs, in diaspora, current affairs, reliable information, history, talking about culture, politics, education, entertainment, business, sports, advertisement, articulation. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. Focus on Liberia. From Monday to Sunday. Focus on.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen. Welcome to Focus on Liberia Live on Kia Radio 95.9 FM. My name is Dennis Jai, and we are broadcasting from Atlanta, Georgia. In this edition of Focus on Liberia Live on Kia Radio, we're going to be looking at President Boakai at the UNGA, that's the United Nations General Assembly. We also have the return of President George Weah and the partisan scuffle with the police. Also, the Capitol building fire, the Capitol building arson case continues. And last but not the least, former President Weah house on fire. What happened? And what is the report saying about what occurred? Before we do that, we're going to have a briefing, or we're going to have update from the Liberian Diaspora Conference. It's slated for this weekend. We have Alfonso here to tell us a little bit more representing that committee. But let me welcome our producer in Monrovia at Kia Radio, James T. Wakwe. Welcome, sir.
Thank you so kindly, and I'm glad to be here. I look forward to a wonderful program.
Thank you. Let me also welcome joining us from the UK, Dr. Fidel Castro T. Booty. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dennis. It's not the C is not for Castro, but yeah, it's great to be here, and yeah, I'm looking forward to another great show.
Thank you. Let me also welcome joining us for the first time on Focus on Liberia, Mr. Alfonso Yeno. Welcome, sir.
Thank you, Dennis, and hi to James and to Fidel.
Thank you, and Mr. Yeno, this is your first time on Focus on Liberia. So on behalf of the Focus on Liberia family, I want to welcome you and give you, a bottle of water to say our hearts are clear as this water.
Thank you very much. I have coffee here, so I'll take a sip as well. So,
thank you. We want to welcome all our viewers from across the globe. If you have not already done so, please share the show, invite someone, and let's talk about Liberia. Before we begin, let me go to Mr. to tell me a little bit about what's going to happen this weekend. The Liberian Diaspora Conference, Dr. Don, the head, was here the last time to talk about the conference. So with just days in between, we just want to know from Mr. Where we stand with the conference.
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you to Focus on Liberia. So this conference, as Ambassador Don said before when he was here, is really a consultative conference with Liberians in the global diaspora. So the government of Liberia working with groups in the diaspora, groups and communities in the diaspora, decided to put this conference together to hear from Liberians in the diaspora on a number of things, including reconciliation, education, healthcare, and investment in Liberia. So those are the 4 key issues that the conference will be covering. The first 2 days of the conference, which Friday the 26th, which is tomorrow, and Saturday the 27th, will focus on deliberations on those 4 key areas. So we'll have experts presenting papers on those 4 key areas. We'll have panelists discussing, and then we'll have breakout sessions where they close to more than 1,000 Liberians who registered to participate in the conference will have an opportunity to dialogue, to talk about these issues, these 4 key issues, and to come up with proposals and suggestions to the government as in terms of what the government should do, but what the role of the diaspora should be in addressing those 4 key areas. So that will be the conference in terms of the first 2 days. On the 3rd day, which is Sunday, the president, who is the chief convener of the conference, President Joseph Boakai, will hold a town hall with Liberians in the DC area in Maryland to listen to and to answer people's questions and to listen to their suggestions and recommendations. Again, not just focus on those 4 key areas, but anything of interest. That is the conference in a nutshell. At the end of the conference, the planning committee hopes to put together a document that will be presented to the government, to Liberians in the diaspora, and to the Liberian people in general.
Thank you. Who are the speakers? Or give me some ideas of who the speakers are and exactly what would they be talking about?
So for the for the first session, which is on reconciliation, so it's reconciliation, nation building in Liberia and in the diaspora. The keynote speaker for that session will be Dr. Murugandi. Dr. Murugandi is a Rwandese. So he's from Rwanda. He experienced the war. He also participated and observed the Rwandan reconciliation process. So he's going to share his experiences relative to, the Rwanda reconciliation example, and that will set the stage for the panel discussion on reconciliation. On the panel on reconciliation, so that the discussions will be broken up in 2 main parts. There's the panel discussion, which will last for about 45 minutes. And then there's the breakout session where, ordinary Liberians who register will also participate. And that part of it will be led by a different group of people, assisted by the panelists. I will have to look at my notes a little bit to tell you who the people are on that panel. So as we go ahead, I will try to look into that. And then we'll have the education panel. So the education panel will also discuss education, of course. And there will be presenters as well. So there will be presenters from the diaspora as well as presenters from Liberia. So there will be the Minister of Education. There will be a UN consultant who's working with the Ministry of Education, Dr. Kula. There will be a diaspora education practitioner, Dr. Josephine Timba. So she'll be representing the diaspora. She'll be presenting her expertise is in STEM education. And then on the health panel, again, I have to look at my notes, but on the investment panel will be led by the National Investment Commission as facilitators. And then Liberians from the diaspora and all walks of life will participate. The idea and the goal of the investment panel is to talk to Liberians about what they need, what support they need, what challenges we're facing in terms of investing in Liberia. The goal is to have Liberians with the resources and capital that we all have in the diaspora to invest in Liberia and take ownership of the Liberian economy. Because currently, as we all know, it's in the hands of, I'm sorry to say, foreigners. And so it's to have that discourse, that discussion, talk to the government officials on the ground who are implementing policies and ideas to see what needs to be done to make sure that that goal is achieved. But as we go forward, I'll revisit the program and I will say specific names to you in terms of panelists.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lastly, before I bring in Fidel, what specific role someone from Liberia, take for instance the education minister, what are they going to tell us on this conference? Are they going to explain what the issues are in Liberia so we can give them solution, or what would be their role? What would they be talking about specifically?
So as I said from the beginning, this is a consultation. So basically, the people from Liberia will be telling us what they're doing, what they've been doing, and what the challenges are. And then the question will be, okay, these are the challenges. These are what you've been doing. Where have you succeeded? Where haven't you? And how those of us in the diaspora, with the expertise that we've gained over time, can intervene. Where can we intervene? How can we intervene to help assist the process?
Thank you, Fidel. I mean, I just hope they were telling all these things all this time instead of waiting for a conference. Fidel.
Well, I think my first and major question will focus on the kind of keynote speaker for that reconciliation aspect of the conference. Now, whilst I respect the expertise of someone who has lived in a country or has been from a country that has experienced a level of violence, the violence experienced in different countries in Africa are for different reasons, first and foremost, and experienced differently. So why didn't we find someone from Liberia to be the keynote speaker? And why do we have to bring someone from Rwanda, which is a completely different context to Liberia? The processes that they've put in place completely different. So, for example, let me just give an example. You had two major groups going up against each other. So the Hutus and Tutsis, whereas in Liberia we had a multitude of groups. So you've got Kram, Adingo, Guiomano, and other tribal groups going. So it's automatically that presents a completely different problem. So why did we go to Rwanda and not get someone from Liberia?
So thank you. Great question. As I explained before, the idea is to bring a perspective that has succeeded. So if you follow the Rwanda reconciliation and peace process, that's one of the examples that's been upheld around the world as a success story, and it's still ongoing. So the idea is to bring that success story to bear to see if there are lessons that we can learn from it. It's not to take the Rwanda cookie cutter. It's not a cookie cutter approach. Take what happened in Rwanda and bring it and just set it into Liberia. No, it's to learn lessons, how other people have done it, and maybe borrow if there are areas and things that we can borrow, and learn lessons in terms of what they've done, what they've filled in, so that we can do things differently. I'll push back a little in terms of your assertion that somehow it's entirely different, mostly different, because I don't see it that way. The conflict in Rwanda had similarities to the conflict in Liberia. While it's true that we have multiple ethnic conflicts and things, the fact of the matter is that the crux of the Rwandan conflict was also ethnic. So how are they addressing the ethnic divide? How are they addressing the ethnic conflict? How are they addressing, people killing people on tribal lines? That wouldn't be different from how you address the conflict of Krans killing Mandingo and vice versa, and Gios killing Krans or Basa killing whatever or vice versa. The ethnic motivations are similar, and so is that similarity. But where we see differences, then we skip those differences. Again, it's not going to be a cookie cutter approach. That is what went into it. That is not to say that your suggestion that maybe we should have gotten a Liberian is wrong. It's just a matter of approach. But on that panel will be 4 Liberians who will be talking about, the Liberian experience and suggestions. We'll also have somebody from the government of Liberia. As you may know, or maybe not know, the government of Liberia has been trying, in terms of reconciliation, to implement some of the suggestions of the Truth and Reconciliation Commission, which again are not vastly different from the approaches in Rwanda. And we can talk about those examples and recommendations later. So the Ministry of Internal Affairs has been, and the National Human Rights Commission, both have been working to implement the recommendations of the TRC around reconciliation. So there will be somebody from the Ministry of Internal Affairs talking about the Palava Hut approaches, for example, going to these villages and communities and having people come together in groups in Palava Huts, confess their involvement in conflict, adapt our traditional cultural approaches to, reconciliation in these Palava Hut settings. It's happened in multiple counties already in Liberia, which is very similar to what happened in Rwanda, by the way, through the Gachacha process. They call it Gachacha, we call it Palava Hut. So it's very similar. But that is not to discount your suggestion that maybe we should have gotten a Liberian. I think the difference is just a matter of approach.
I'll disagree slightly, but I don't think people want us to dwell on that, because if we're saying, obviously, just taking the comment you just made, that the process, one of the processes used in Rwanda, we have a tailor-made version of it with the Palava Hub project, which I've done some research on back in 2016. Then again, it undermines the notion that we went for a Rwandan when we already have people from Liberia that developed something similar to what Rwanda is going to come and tell us, right? Because the Palava Hub project, I was just doing a quick research on the Rwandan process, and yes, the whatever you call it, I just forgot how to pronounce the name, it's very similar to the Palava Hub project that was proposed by the TRC in 2009. So if we have that, my thing is we have the expertise from, like, I'm an advocate for native researchers, like people who are from the place, talking about the place and researching, because they have a level of understanding that is more unique to the Liberian context. And whilst again we can go back and forth on the differences and similarities, the point you've just made, we have something that is similar to the so why didn't we just go for that instead of bringing someone from a context completely different?
So we do have that. We do have that. As I said, somebody who's been working on that project in Liberia is on the panel. We also have other experts from Liberia on the panel. So we're not just listening to a Rwandan example and say, let's move on. We have one Rwandan speaking and 4 Liberians speaking, including people who've been working on the Palava Hut project that I just described. So yes, that context is present. In fact, it would take most of the deliberation. So in addition to the Palava Hut discussion, as I said earlier, there will be the breakout groups that these professionals will facilitate of ordinary Liberians who registered. Over 600 Liberians who registered to participate in the conference will participate in those deliberations, those breakout sessions. There'll be 2 breakout sessions on reconciliation. So again, the Liberian voice is going to dominate the discussion. The Liberian experience is going to dominate the discussion, the dialogue. What's happening with the Rwandan is simply to learn other things. But as you said, I wouldn't want to dwell on that. And I would say that your suggestion is not wrong. It's just that the planning committee took this approach. But I agree with you. The Liberian voice should be present. And I'll tell you that the Liberian voice will be dominant in this discussion.
Thank you. And let's conclude on that. Would there be a kind of virtual participation where people,
Thank you.
away? And also, is money involved, or if people want to join now, what do they need to do to attend the conference? Let's conclude on that.
Thank you, Dennis. Great question. Yes, so there's a virtual participation platform, and that's still open. So anybody who is interested in participating virtually can still register. All they have to do is to go to the website, Liberia Diaspora Conference, and you type it in, the website opens, you scroll down, you'll say you can still register to participate virtually. The virtual participants will be able virtually, like we're doing right now, to listen and to ask questions through the chat, and to even participate and put in suggestions. So the virtual part of it is still open. Unfortunately, the in-person session has closed because it's being held at a venue, and the venue has capacity restrictions. So the in-person part is closed. The Sunday though, which is the town hall of the president, is open. No registration is required, and everybody is encouraged to join and to participate. In addition to that, there will be a streaming part of it. So it'll be streamed on LRT and radio. So if people who just want to watch, not participate, can just tune into LRTN for the streaming of the entire deliberations of the conference. Those who want to participate, as I said, can register to receive the link to participate virtually.
Thank you. And I also hope that the town hall was a virtual town hall. I've been calling for it. That when the president or anybody comes, let's do it. Let's do a virtual town hall, so we are not constrained by space and we don't have to fly here and there. But Mr. Thank you very much for highlights and giving us some details about what to expect this weekend. We appreciate your time, and as I've asked you earlier, we want you to stay so that we can continue on talking other issues.
I'm glad to do so.
And about other issues, we want to start with President Boakai at the UNGA. President Boakai is there. It's a 18 seconds clip.
Through our agenda for inclusive development, Liberia will invest $8.3 billion over 5 years to transform lives with gender equality, youth empowerment, education, healthcare, and social development at all.
Fidel, some of you have been, and Alfonso, some of you have been following UNGA. The president, what is different about this one with the delegation, what the president is talking about, anything that stood out to you about this UNGA? Let me start with you, Fidel.
Well, when you say different, I wouldn't say there was anything different in terms of the complete rhetoric that leaders go to the UNGA to spit out. Because a lot of the things that we talk about or we hear leaders talk about do not come to fruition once they've left. It's just an opportunity for African leaders and leaders from across the world, but we're from the continent, so we focus on our space to spend money that we don't have, go to a meeting that normally yields nothing. The president's talking about 8.3 billion investment over 5 years in creating opportunities for people in Liberia, right? Now, if I heard right, he's speaking more from the perspective of expecting international partners to support the effort, to help the government of Liberia raise that money and then invest that. But when we look at the fact that the 800 million or so budget that we passed recently, and 80% of that is going on recurring expenses, and some of us have been shouting for years for the government of Liberia to look at ways of cutting back the waste in terms of high salaries and benefits to officials of government, and they're blatantly refusing to do that. How can you expect someone to trust you with all that money, knowing fully well you're just going to use that on paying for your lavish salaries and benefits for yourself and your families and taking trips overseas? So no, I think it's nothing new in my opinion. It's just the same old. You come there and give these speeches, and once you leave, that's it. There's nothing that comes out of it for the ordinary people of whatever country these presidents come from. He talked about, and I'll rest on this point. He talked about putting in place an anti-corruption reform that mandates declaration of assets. Well, declaration of assets is something that we've been looking at this government to implement for, I think, almost 80%. At some point of his officials of government had not declared their assets. These assets, once declared, are not made public. So we don't even know. So basically, it's me coming to you, Dennis, and say, Dennis, look, I'm worth 1 million, but the rest of the people don't know how much I'm worth. So 10 years from now, I can say, Dennis, tell the people that 10 million, I say I'm worth. And then you get your little kickback, and that's it. So where is the accountability? If it's just nobody knows. If someone says like, who's policing the police, right? So you go to LACC and say, oh look, this is what I'm worth, but the public don't know. And the same people at LACC are as corrupt as the rest of you. How do we expect them to hold you accountable at some point when you leave government? So look, these guys just go there and talk a lot of craziness, in my opinion, and they don't lead to anything fruitful for their people.
Thank you. So the point you're making there is that when the president said we are taking tangible steps to improve governance by implementing accountability and anti-corruption measures such as asset declaration, we are strengthening institutional capacity to promote integrity, transparency, and improve public sector delivery. Let me
just say something quickly on that before you welcome Mr. Eastman, because we know this president has undermined the rule of law in Liberia by sacking people who are in tenured positions, put in place by him and his former president Ellen Johnson Sirleaf to promote the integrity and promote transparency and promote the accountability. So the same systems and institutions that were created for the thing that he's telling us he's doing now, he's been cutting them over the last 2 years. So how can you trust someone who has been doing the opposite to just come here and say all these things and oh yeah, Boakai, honestly.
So I can welcome Jimmy now.
Please.
Jimmy Eastman from the nation's capital, welcome to the discussion.
Thank you very much, Mr. Numa. I plan to be there tomorrow, so I am one of those registered already. Wonderful. And I hope we can make the most of this situation. I believe the diaspora.
Jimmy, I just welcome you. I didn't ask you to.
But you wanted to comment on the thing you were talking before. The diaspora.
Go ahead.
Liberia, the diaspora is Liberia gold mine. You have millions sitting out here. You have immense amount of talent and skill. How can we harness those resources? Is the tricky part, and hopefully this will be a beginning of being able to properly, bring that to fruition, and for all of us,
Thank you. And Mr. let me come to you there. The reason I really asked about what's different is we hit when President Boakai, or maybe is there now a lack of interest? I mean, I listened to the Secretary Marco Rubio kind of disparaging the UN, and even President Trump is like talking down and everything else. So when you look at the UN and why the people are here, so like for me personally watching, it was kind of boring. It's like, okay, we've heard the same thing over and over and over and over. And especially when you speak of your domestic agenda, this is what we are doing at home. But that's what they've been saying. I didn't really see President Boakai commenting on other international issues like the others were commenting on. But let me hold my thoughts there and say, what's your impression from the presentation at the UNGA?
Okay, thank you. Mr. Eastman, I look forward to seeing you there, and I hope that, we can really produce something. You're correct. The diaspora is the gold mine. Last year, 2024 report suggests that Liberians in the diaspora sent close to $1 billion home. So the right word you use there is harness. How do we harness these resources, the expertise, the academic training, the experience, and the capital that we have here to assist in developing our countries? This is the question that that conference is at the very least expected to pose to Liberians in the global diaspora tomorrow. It might not be the end. We can have more conversations about it and come together as a group. So thank you. But Dennis, to go to your question, in terms of President Boakai's presentation. How is it different? What is it going to change? UN conferences are not intended to change things. They're in terms of domestic policy. So the presidents do not come to give speeches as a magic wand to somehow transform what's going on back home. And if you listen to all of the presentations, you heard presidents talking about their domestic agenda. You heard presidents then talking about global international issues, not necessarily coming there, give a speech, and then somehow magically the problems in the country go away. Or they don't come to the UN to make a commitment. The commitment is made to their people back home through their policies, through programs that they put in place to accomplish. Now, is it a talk shop to a large extent? Yes, it is, because they're just reciting the programs that are in place in the place. They're just reciting their foreign policies that have already been pronounced upon. And Dennis, I would disagree a little bit when you said that President Boakai did not talk about international issues. He talked about that other people talk about. He talked about the war in Gaza. He talked about a two-state solution. He talked about Liberia's position on the two-state solution. He talked about ECOWAS and how ECOWAS leaders should not allow foreign actors to come and split ECOWAS and break it up. He talked about the role of the AU in promoting peace in Africa, and ECOWAS in promoting peace in Africa. So he talked about critical national issues. Then he talked, and international issues. Then he talked about the role of Liberia in terms of ascending to the UN Security Council as a non-permanent member representing Africa, the voice of Africa. I believe those are international issues.
I agree. Jimmy, let me come to you here. On the local front, the president said we have endured some of the darkest chapter of human suffering, having experienced one of the most brutal civil conflicts in recent history. Over the past 2 decades, we have remained firmly on the path of recovery, working to heal our nation and rebuild from the painful legacy of war. You know, I watched, and this is you can call your beef MC Carol, who said, "Oh, we tired with the sorrowful song now." You know, she was like this. She said, "You know, whether you're Easton, JJ Robertson, that one, sorry, but we're time to celebrate." I mean, people getting tired with this our war story. You know,
yeah. Thank you.
Back now, yeah, we're from war.
Yeah, I don't think rhetoric is going to turn Liberia around. And I believe the president has to recognize this. We've, no matter how we talk about the war, then people will not be interested. They want to know what we are doing. How are we resuscitating? How are we gaining traction? And what can we offer? Most especially, what can we offer the rest of the world? Instead of holding our hands out, we've been suffering, we poor, we got this. No. The world wants to know what can we give them? And until we take that position to know that we have to give back, then it is going to be futile, because everybody in the world is looking to promote themselves now. The $8 billion investment you mentioned, I think, is ambitious. But the only way we will find that sort of support is, first, we have to acknowledge our track record. Liberia has a history of corruption, instability, and weak institutions. The first thing we have to come out and publicly admit, look, we have this problem. And don't try to shade the problem. Don't try to cover it. I see a lot of that going on, trying to say, no. Admit what it is and what you're going to do about it. We have to be strong on ourselves. If we're going to heal ourselves, we have to properly identify what the problem is and go at it with full anticipation of a cure, not dressing. You know, we can't just dress the wound. We have to cure the wound. And then we have to start going through building strong mechanisms that will utilize this money, and we can see results from it. A lot of countries will not do anything until they start seeing results of your small investment. But last of all, we have to look internally. What can we do? Like we're talking about our schools in the interior, the children sitting on the floor. Can we not even provide for ourselves chairs for our students and stuff? What can we do? I don't think we are looking at doing certain things for ourselves first. And that has to be part of it, because no matter how much someone helps you, if you do not know how to preserve and nurture your own ability to be self-reliant, it'll be for naught. You'll be back to the same place tomorrow.
Thank you. Let me bring in James here. James, normally when the president travels, the attention of the country is there. How has the president's message to the UNGA been received in Liberia, and what are the expectations of people in Liberia? Since the president has been away, what do they expect to get from such a conference?
Presidential trips to foreign countries is always a unique opportunity for Liberians to hear from their president on what are some ways he's trying to push the country's agenda, to push the interests of Liberians, and to also advocate for development, and to ensure that some of the things that Liberians are facing are flagged out there so that other people can know and come to Liberia's aid. Liberians, since the president left, there have been these two arguments about why did the president leave earlier than the start of the summit or the assembly, and then there are other people who believe that the president trip, he had to leave because of some reasons, and they believe that the president is making a good case for Liberia, especially considering the way he plays that they are trying to invest about $8 billion in other sector, other parts of the country to ensure that Liberia is developed. And there are people also who believe that the president his overstay in the US is similar to what was done by former President George Weah, who went for about 40 days out of the country. But one of the things that gladdens Liberians that they look forward to is the issue of this diaspora conference that is being publicized to many Liberians in Liberia and out there, because the issue has been that this conference is being held differently, and that because of the way the president is going to the people to meet with them, to interact with them, they look forward to hearing plans on how does the government intend to incorporate and welcome the ideas of Liberians who are living out there, and how can they come back to contribute to the country, because stuff like the allowing them to vote, giving them that dual citizenship and all those kind of things, those are conversations that Liberians are having. And one of the things that caught the attention of many Liberians that brought up some debate on the internet was the issue when the president mark was switched off after he exceeded the time limit he had been given at the assembly. But that was being justified by some unity partisans that was due to the president had some pressing issues to mention at the UN, and the time could not permit him. And some said that it's something normal that happens, but while others believe that President Boakai and the president who wrote the president's speech did not do well for him.
Thank you. And Jimmy, you are in the nation's capital, and James, also are there being, because one of the challenges too is our government has not been too forthcoming or transparent with what's going on. Are there being reports going back to Liberian? James, you are there, of what's going on, or people watch Facebook Live and then that's it? Are we having press attaché to the president, detailing exactly what's going on so that the Liberian people are aware? Or we're just picking our news from, here and then because we watch the live feed?
To respond to that, the president the executive mansion particularly has been informing the citizens about happenings and some of the media institutions as well. If you may be aware that two Liberian journalists accompanied the president on his trip to highlight some of the things that are ongoing, and Liberians were informed about the president meeting with UN Secretary General as well, and I think the Prince of Qatar or something like that. And they are being informed and regularly in from the Ministry of not Education, but sorry, that's the Ministry of Information. And then also the executive mansion page has been regularly updated. And in some cases, some journalists as well have been sharing the information. And like I said, there are journalists who are currently on the show with the president. They are being flagging the issues and highlighting, telling the stories of some of the things that are ongoing at the United Nations General Assembly. So for now, yes, Liberians, apart from the live videos and things that they see, they also see some updates about some meetings, dialogues, especially other government officials. So, for example, the finance minister held served as one of the panelists for one of the high-level discussions on the south of the UN General Assembly, and also the Minister of Education, the Minister of Gender, Children and Social Protection as well, and other government officials, even the Foreign Minister as well, also serve as panelists on one of the high-level discussions there at the General Assembly. So yeah, these things are being flagged, and people are being regularly informed through the different pages, official pages of these ministries, agencies, and media platforms.
Thank you, Alfonso. If you know the optics when President Boakai was speaking, if you look, the hall was almost empty, right? And some journalists picked that up. How did that make you feel, or is it normal? Is it that what the president saying is like, why should people care? Was it the kind of feeling you got?
No, that's not a feeling I got. And the reason is if you continue and watch the other presidents speaking and the other days and whatever, you will see the hall was also empty. and I urge anybody to go back and watch it and correct me if I'm wrong. That is the nature of the UN General Assembly, period. A lot of the discussions that really take place are not necessarily the speeches that are given on the floor of the UN General Assembly. Is these meetings on the side, bilateral discussions and meetings on the side? That's where the impact is made. It's not through those speeches. Those speeches are basically ceremonial, and so take for instance where the president's mic was shut off when he went over time was not his address to the UN General Assembly. It was a meeting. He was speaking at the UN, I believe, 20th or whatever anniversary of the UN's Women's Declaration. And as James said, the multiple other meetings that take place off the stage of the UN General Assembly. So I've watched a good number of the speeches, and the hall is almost always 60-80% not packed, except at the times when you have President of the United States speaking, and the Secretary General of the United Nations speaking, those kinds of things. One of the things I observe is that they go very early in the morning, and they're supposed to sit in the hall. They expect to sit in the hall until their time to speak at 3 or 4 or 6 or 8. So some of the leaders leave and come back when it's time for them to speak. So I don't want to characterize it at we don't have interest in listening to the president of Liberia. We don't have interest in listening to the prime minister of France. It's just the nature of the beast.
Fidel, let's conclude on this. Generally, should we really be attending the UN General Assembly, or what is it about it that still is really appealing that warrant the presence of the president? Spending in your world money we don't have.
I was when I think it was James that was talking, and I cast my mind back to Charles Taylor, right? And I said maybe they should sanction Boakai too. Then you would not be going to the General Assembly all the time. Yeah, Charles Taylor used to sit at home, and send one minister or something like that to go and read. Look, it's a waste of time. I believe. Even Mr. Nyenu is more optimistic than I am with all these side events. It's all like photo opportunities, right? That's basically what it is. Or here I am with the Prince of Qatar taking a picture, or here I am with the UN Secretary General. These things don't yield anything, because if they did, every president who comes back will shout about it. Look, oh, I went to the assembly, had these side events, and I got 2 billion investment into Liberia. They don't happen there, right? At the end of the day, Machiavelli, and I keep using him as an example because that's the only one we have. John Machiavelli, the BBC reported when he took over in 2017 alone, banning foreign travel saved 430 million US dollars. Now, obviously, Liberia cannot save that much from banning foreign travels, but if the president was serious about doing things to help Liberia, as Mr. Yenu suggests, then those are things that he needs to do. All these foreign travels, and they're not necessary. Send one minister of foreign affairs there to go and speak, deliver your speech on your behalf, have the bilateral conversations, and save the money and invest it in agriculture, invest it in healthcare, and invest it in education for our young people, creating jobs so that our young people are not turning to drugs because they're sitting there around idle, right? Then we know, and I think Mr. Eastman made a very, very crucial point, right? And I'll end on this one, and maybe you guys will laugh at me when I say it, but I'm going to say it nonetheless because I'm shameless, right? I support Arsenal, right? And one of the criticisms that our manager has been receiving recently is that people need to stop listening to what he's saying and watch what he's doing, right? It's easier for you to say, oh, yes, I'm doing this, but then we're not seeing the action on the pitch. And that's exactly what President Boakai is doing. He's talking about 8 billion, right? We're not even raising 8 billion a year in revenues, right? Our budget is not 1 billion. So where are you going to get 8 billion from? In 6 years, in 5 years, where are you going to get 8 billion? So the people need to be more realistic. We have little ways of saving money within our budget and then implementing those funds in the right way. And when the international community sees us on the right track, I can guarantee you there are countries out there that will come and say, you know what? Since you guys are doing this little with the little you have, let me augment that with a little bit more. But you keep talking and you're wasting money on salaries and foreign travels and benefits. Yeah, it means nothing.
Jimmy, you think that means nothing? I mean, we're part of the global village. We just sit home or just let Louis Brown, give the speech. He's a good talker.
I don't think these meetings will have any significance if it's not in tandem with other actions being taken. What I believe Liberians thought when they were voting for His Excellency Boakai was that he would have brought a system to Liberia that coordinated the efforts of all our ministries, of all our departments, and of the people. And by simply doing these ad hoc projects without coordination, it's not going to yield that much. This trip to the UN should have been preceded by other meetings, by other negotiations, and maybe the trip finally to the UN will culminate all those agreements and get some fruit from it. But in isolation, a simple trip is not enough. Even our trip to Japan that we made, we were supposed to have already pre-negotiated arrangement with the Japanese businessmen, the Japanese business people, so that when we finally go there, we seal the deal. These things can't work in isolation, and it's not a one-day affair. It is a continuous process, it's a system that you have to create. A working machines that every day they're working toward the promotion of Liberian policies and whatnot. But simple one-day trips, it doesn't do it. Now, I believe the press, as much as I was very keenly listening to some of the things James was saying, but I wish that they had communicated this more outside Liberia as well as inside Liberia, because we're interested and we want to know what the outcome. That's why you're asking these questions. Why have not they come to use social media to at least promote what is going on over there, so the whole world knows that Liberia is on the right path and taking actions to improve its situation? But what is actually going to change Liberia is when we have systems in place that work. Not, I don't believe in isolated projects because we call them silos. Silos can't function like systems. If we're going to push Liberia somewhere, all of us have to work in tandem and have a plan and a goal. All these things have to be identified to have a system. And I think this is what we're expecting of this administration.
Alfonso, I see some, because I've been a teacher for the past 37 years, I see some disagreement in your face. So let me give you 30 minutes or 30 seconds to conclude on this, and let me welcome Dr. Jones Otavio Malley. Welcome, Dr. Malley.
Oh, good evening, sir.
Thank you.
Greetings.
So when you see this, I put my face, I'll get 30 seconds too.
So it wasn't it wasn't disagreement per se.
I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I don't go wrong.
Okay. So it wasn't disagreement per se, but I think if we believe, and that's one thing I wanted, as James was, giving his report, that I also kind of flagged. If Liberians, I believe we should get away from the tendency of every time our leader travels, they're supposed to be coming back with a bucket of gifts. How much he brought back? He went on the trip. How much money he brought back? Sometimes that's not the purpose of these meetings. Sometimes you don't go to just bring a bucket of things back. Sometimes you go to have, as you correctly said, Dennis, because we're part of the global village. Does is there value in these meetings? I believe there is. Is there value in staying home and say we'll take the money and put it into development in the country? I believe there is. So there has to be a balance. What it is that you expect to accomplish, what it is that you expect to get, versus what do you lose out on if you do not go. That's life. That's just what it is throughout. It's a give and take. What's the economic term for it? It's not coming to my mind right now, but that's exactly what it is. Exactly. So you have to do the benefit analysis of what it is that you're going to.
You think we're doing that?
I think this particular trip, for example, I think coming was worth not coming, and here is the reason why. Liberia next year is extending to the UN Security Council, representing Africa. This was not the time for Liberia to sit back home and say we want to save $200,000 to build something, as opposed to we took on the challenge and leadership of representing Africa. We want to push for Africa to have a permanent representation of the Security Council. If we didn't want that job, then we shouldn't have taken it. We can't take the job and say, no, but we're going to sit at home. We're not going to make the case. So I think that's really important. So again, it's cost-benefit analysis. I also push back a little bit on the issue that they just got to make these trips. If that's what they're doing, then, oh my God, that's horrible. But these trips are planned ahead of time. The people on the ground have conversations before these high profile trips are made. So I hesitate to believe that any government, whether Ellen, whether Weah or whatever, would just get and say, oh, we're going to Japan today to have a meeting. There's an embassy in Japan. There's an embassy representing Liberian interests in Japan. There's an embassy of Japan representing Japanese interests in Liberia. There are discussions that take place before these trips are made. Now, what's the value of the trip? We don't know. We have to look at it cost-benefit analysis and not just say every trip is wrong or because they didn't bring a wheelbarrow full of money back.
Yeah, and some of the cost-benefit analysis, meaning, okay, so you plan what is it that I want, then you look at options. Could I achieve the same thing doing this? So like Dr. Budi said, maybe our permanent representative at the UN could represent us. So Liberia is still being represented, but at a lower cost. Okay, let me go to James now. Let's move on to our next issue, that is former President Weah's return. And James being our eye on the ground, there's a lot of things that went on, and we carried a return right here. And we saw there was this scuffle with the police. Also, what I didn't see was on that day, I did not hear an official government response. I wanted to know what really is happening. But James, just give us a rundown, the coming of President Weah, what happened, and afterwards, a day or two after, how has this his second? I mean, and when I saw that young children who were not even born when President Weah was playing, they were dancing. Is it something that the government does not want? What really caused the kerfuffle that we witnessed on national TV?
Okay, so thank you again. Normally, when the former president is coming to the country, there can be this noise, this issue of the debate about whether or not citizens are going to welcome the former president at the airport. And the fact is, there's something that no one can take away from the former president that we Liberians have noticed over the years is that a lot of people still love him, and they think that a lot of them still think that he can come back for a second term in 2029. So based on that, I think it was a calculated plan by the CDC to announce the arrival of the former president to the country. And when he came, they mobilized citizens. In fact, they had buses around Monrovia at certain junction and points to pick up citizens and supporters who trooped in to welcome the former president. But that event soon turned out to be a little chaotic after supporters of the CDC or former President Weah began to throw words at the police, according to reports that we gathered. In fact, Kia Radio was live at the event, and we covered the entire scene there at the airport. So at first it was peaceful, and people were going about their normal businesses and things, just waiting for the arrival of the former president. But it later became chaotic, where police started to fire tear gas at the.
You said they were throwing words, not stones.
No, they were throwing words, not stones. They now see them throw stone and whatever. Yes. So
words like what?
So words like remember the police who was caught on camera taking a wig, of somebody that at the former headquarters of CDC. So they had a song. I just can't remember exactly the song, but it was relating to almost like hire week the police coming, something like that.
Mm-hmm.
Yes. So that was provocative, and then some other words they were using a thing at the police, and then they had a restricted area that people are now also cross this particular place or go beyond this place, and so at some point in time they decided to cross that limit, and that's how the police decided to put them into order, and they started to fire tear gas at the supporters of CDC. But then
was that restricted area reasonable?
For reason I've not seen that yet, or it's my first time to hear of such, because we know that supporters of even the government and opposition figures, they are gathered at the airport before to welcome the leaders back to the country. But I've not heard before about any restricted area, or especially not exactly on the airport, but maybe around the airport like that. Yes, but I've not heard that before. I think for me, it's my first time hearing of such. But however, when the former president arrived finally into the country, he was welcomed by citizens, and they gladly jubilated and they celebrated. And one of the things he said was that he is here to help to rebuild the headquarters of the CDC in real quick time. That is no waste of time. They are working. They will work assiduously to ensure that the headquarters of the CDC is erected, and that citizens have a home that they can be proud of. And he also said that he had traveled to ensure that his son Timothy Weah gets a club, as the new season was approaching. So he heard about several things, but again, he's here. He reaffirmed that that is a moment for them to make a comeback, to recalibrate and put their base in order to come back again in 2029.
Thank you, Dr. Malo. I want to get your response to what happened. Your police actions that CDC people were pushed out, and I asked somebody, the police were they looking for force on CDC, or CDC actually crossed the line? What do you think?
Well, the police is part and parcel of the state institution. They have the obligation to putting under control, protect property and lives. So I think in my own thinking, I think the police was just doing what other police do around the world. But I think it's about time now that we reform this system where when head of state coming, you get people conglomerating to the airport. There's even a fright to outgoing passengers and incoming passengers, you see. So I think it's about time that instead of the police going there, you see the people beating drum, people coming, they try to go on their flight. I think it's about time that maybe they can have the occasion outside the purview of the airport. Maybe there's few officers, maybe one or two or five.
I get that point, Dr. Mali. What exactly do you think CDC or the partisan did wrong? Because that's what everybody does. The president, supporters, opposition. Even if I'm going, I expect people to be there and say, "There comes the new superintendent of Sino County," prospect. So I'm expecting that. And if there's no, I will put them together. So that's what everybody's doing. What did CDC do wrong to warrant the action of the police? Did you? I heard Jim is saying that didn't happen.
I don't know the detail, but here is my insight. The police is a sitting police right now, and the president George Weah is a former president. Okay, I don't want to believe his popularity or his assumed power by this time should exceed the expectation of that of the sitting government.
What does that mean? So,
that means if you come as a sitting come as a former president. All right. So your delegation, even to the airport, if I'm in charge, we have to be scaled down to a very skeleton representation. Not the type of thing I saw there. Yes, you see, we have a sitting president. You can't be popular more than the sitting president. And so the police were just doing what is normal to put it under control at that time.
Thank you, Jimmy. Is the government intimidated by Weah's popularity? Because what Dr. Mali is saying is, hey, you can be more popular than the president.
I like Dr. Mali's response. It's so typical Liberian. Look, first of all, the police are there to uphold the constitutional rights of everyone. And one of those constitutional rights is the freedom of assembly and expression. People are supposed to be free to gather if they want to. But why you want the police there? Yes, if you have a large crowd going somewhere, you want them to be there to prevent violence, to prevent stampedes and clashes, okay? So it's good for them to be around. But we want them to remain neutral in such a situation, non-partisan. And that is what is the overture here, that the police are becoming partisan. We do not need that in our country, unless we just don't want to practice democracy. But we cannot have law enforcement at any gathering being reviewed as partisan. They're supposed to be neutral and upholding the law. That is exactly what they're supposed to do. So that means they have to proportionally apply restraint. Okay, it should be something non-escalatory. It is unfortunate that we saw the arrest and brutalization of some people, but we don't want to see that. Now, without the details, I can't say if the police were acting within their boundaries. But one thing is evident, that it's going to have a political implication. I think going further, we have to figure out how can we manage these situations without it becoming where somebody has to be brutalized or somebody has to be arrested. And I think we're going to need the police on these in these situations. We're going to need them for the reasons I just stated, to keep the peace, keep the nonviolent atmosphere. At the same time, we don't want them to appear partisan. So what they need to do is make sure they show accountability and transparency in all their undertakings. All right, let it look very plain so nobody can blame them for any situation. It's going to always be like this because it's political theater. But the police can behave professionally. We will have no problem.
Thank you, Mr. One wise man told me, he said, snake are good hard, but we don't even let snake to come. Soon we see snake, we pick up snake. So you never know what snake. So why is it that everywhere CDC gathers, the government thinks that there's going to be problem, and so you have police there? Is it because CDC's past experience, or the police is just intimidated, or the police is paranoid by the presence of CDC partisans? What's going on here?
So it could be all of the things you just named. But let me begin with what your correspondent James said. And Dr. Mali, by the way, good to meet you. We're on a committee, but we never met in person. I'm glad to see you here. But yeah, why your correspondent James said, I think is very important. I'll begin on that point, which is that the CDC people cross a certain perimeter that the police said they shouldn't cross. So if we begin from that premise, from the person on the ground telling us, then that will inform the rest of our discussion, whether or not the police was paranoid or acted partisan or whatever the case may be. The law is the law. We need to follow the law, the rule of law. We cannot, on the one hand, say that we'll hold government officials accountable for upholding the law, but at the same time tell ourselves we can do anything we want to do. Mm-hmm. There is law in the country. There's no airport in the world where you see thousands of people just go and jam airport because somebody's coming. As Dr. Malik said, there are ordinary people who are traveling out of the country. There are ordinary people who are coming inside the country. There are business people coming. The airport's the gateway for a number of things. We can't have rowdy crowds. James said, your correspondent said, they have buses around the town collecting people to take them to the airport. Do they know who were in that crowd? Could somebody have been in that crowd with a weapon? The police has a responsibility for crowd control. When you see a crowd gather, you have to intervene to make sure that it doesn't break out into chaos and violence, which is possible. And that goes to your point of the history of the CDC. Has there been violence when CDC people gather? Yes. Have there been violence when other people gather? Yes. Not only CDC. So the police has that statutory responsibility to make sure that where a huge crowd is gathered, that they protect that area and police it. If the CDC and anybody for that matter wants to assemble anywhere, two things need to happen. They have to respect the perimeters, and two, if such a huge crowd needs permission under our law to gather. That's what the law says. Until we something in the great United States of America, when a crowd gathers, we get permits. When we went to Philadelphia the other time to demonstrate and take over the street, we got permits. Right. I think this whole idea of being lawless crowds just moving around to score political points, we shouldn't feed into it.
Mm-hmm. Before you end, have we had a government report as to exactly what happened? Because the first thing we heard was CDC were throwing stones. Now we are learning from James of a perimeter. That's why I was asking whether it was reasonable. Is that place, has it been a no-go zone? Because we have seen lots of time people go to the airport to welcome people. So do we know? On the day of the incident, I tried to call the information minister, Mr. Pierre. He didn't respond or return my call or my text. What is the government or the police saying actually happened? Do we know?
I did not hear, and this is a situation I did not follow. I did not hear the government's
I follow
position.
it, but I didn't hear it.
Yeah, I've seen what we all have seen, which is a huge rowdy crowd, and as James correctly said, trying to cross the perimeter. Now, is the perimeter reasonable? It's a case by case situation. If 5 or 10 or 20 people come, maybe the police will not set a strict perimeter. If 200, 300 people are approaching the international airport, maybe the police will set a strict perimeter. So it's not a case, it would be a case by case situation given the potential threat level. And that's what police and security institutions and everybody operates on, the threat level. So 10 people cannot override overrun an airport, but 200, 300 people can overrun an airport. So the response will be different than it would be to 10 or 20 people. So I wouldn't say there's a strict line that exists, but I think there should even be a straight line that exists that people shouldn't cross. You go in the country, do your group of people accompany you when you enter in the airport or go through TSA? No. Why do we still do that?
Yeah, exactly, and that's the question, and I'll go to you, Dr. Budi. I mean, if this line is only drawn when CDC people go in, because President Boakai will be going back, there will be no line, who the other person will be going back. So this thing happened mainly with former President Weah. So, Dr. Budi, there have been a lot of those kind of clashes. I remember before elections, right? We saw the brutality, even people were killed in the street. Till now, we don't have any, I don't know if those cases have been followed. We saw what happened in Foya. People were killed in their own homes. We saw someone plow a car in the Unity Party partisan in their headquarters. The police we have, I don't know if those cases are, if anybody is following these things, and James, you can keep me honest here. But it's like these things will just happen and then that's it. So when we see the police doing such a thing, people will feel that you were only doing it when it comes to CDC. Would they be right?
Well, first of all, Mr. Yenu suggested that he was going to default to James's position or statement on the matter, but I think he kind of cherry-picked what he wanted to talk about, because one of the questions that James asked was, we've not heard about this restricted area when other people are there, right? He didn't touch on that. He only focused on the fact that you've got all these people going to the airport to go
because we have people plenty and other people not plenty.
Sorry?
I said he said because we have people plenty and the other people
no,
not
but
plenty.
that's not the point. That's not the point. But James said that, and that wasn't touched on. And at the end of the day, James also said that, look, these guys were basically singing, right? That's what he used. He said words, and then the police used tear gas, right? Now, the police is supposed to be a civil, and I disagree with Dr. Mali as well on this. The police are supposed to be a tactical civil force, right? That's the reason why you don't bring the military to these kind of things, because their own way of dealing with things is completely different. The police is supposed to be tactical. They're supposed to go in there and use their brains to de-escalate. So when Mr. Nyenu is talking about intervention, police are not supposed to intervene when people are gathering. When you talk about, they should have gotten a permit, it wasn't a protest. They were going there to welcome someone, right? Yes, if it's a protest, then yes, you should go to the Ministry of Justice to get a permit. But this wasn't a protest. Seditians went there to welcome. So the thing here is, look, just we have a big family. All the seditians in Apala family. So next time when Dennis come in, like, bro, when 10 people come to the airport to welcome, they say, no, only 2 people can come welcome Dennis. Where do we stop? This is the most reckless version of the Unity Party that I have ever seen. This nonsense did not happen when President Ellen Johnson Sirleaf was leading the Unity Party. It tells you exactly who's at the top. Someone who's incompetent, who's unable to control the people around him. And basically, these guys are just acting thuggish in Liberia right now, because the police should have never used tear gas on innocent Liberian citizens who are based. Look, every time when Black Lives Matters protesters go out, they shout at the police. That does not give the police the right to beat them. Unless they actually physically attack the police, The police cannot just go start waving people because, oh, you're a criminal, oh, you're a killer. No, that's their job. They're supposed to stay there and withstand those kind of criticism because they're public figures. They're open to criticism. So to sit here and say, oh, well, 200 people, I've been to the airport many times, right? And what Mr. Yenu said, which is untrue, that, oh, that's the only airport they're allowing people in. I go to the airport, my family don't even come through the first line of security. No family member enters the building where you even go in just to show your ticket. Here, when I travel to Liberia and I go to the airport, my friends take me all the way to the decks. I check in. From there, when I'm going through security, that's when they stop. You can't go beyond security. But Liberia, you can't even come into where I'm checking in, let alone go to security before you go to immigration. So that's saying that, oh, they let people in, that's untrue, right? And obviously, if you don't have all the facts, let's not say things that are untrue.
I think you're making very false statements. I never said they let people in. I said they should not let people in. So I think you're incorrect on that note. I think you're also more than cherry pick. You also more than cherry pick what James said. And I hope James is still here. I hope the correspondent James is still here, because James did not want to say they use words. James said they cross a barricade. James did not want to say use words. I hope James is still, of course, a protected area is a barricade area. What do you think a protected area is? What is a protected area, Zach? What is a protected area? No, but you're crossing the line and say, don't cross the line. How did I protect the area? What are you talking about?
Don't use those words. James, let Dr. Budi is on the floor.
It's not James, it's Alfonso that's talking, not James.
I'm sorry, Alfonso.
Yeah. It's been very rude. It's been very rude in interrupting me. I never interrupted.
There we go. There we go.
Sorry, Dennis, you said what?
No, I said don't say rude.
It is rude. What's wrong with saying when someone's interrupting when you're talking? That's rude.
No.
So what do you mean don't say rude?
We're having a conversation. We're having a dialogue. You do not have a conversation. You spew a lot of falsehoods and you need it, and you continue to stop.
I waited for you when you were speaking.
Go ahead with your point.
Give me 30 seconds.
Yeah,
I waited for you to speak because you said, look, you just clarified that, oh, they should not allow people. When you say they should not, it means that they are allowing people, right? And you say, oh, I'm lying. I'm not lying. You just clarified and you said exactly what I said, that, oh, they should not allow people. When you tell me, oh, I should not be allowing it, that means I'm allowed there and they should now restrict me from going in. So at the end of the day, look, Dennis, what I heard James say, and James can clarify, that these people were using words. They didn't resort to violence. There was an area that was restricted, and he was unsure whether that is restricted for everyone or just CDC, which means previously there were no restriction, or there is a suggestion that might have not have been restriction, which if it was the case, then it was wrong. This particular government is reckless. They do not know what they're doing, and they instigate most of these violent activities that go on, especially when it relates. And when Dr. Mali say, oh, nobody should be more popular than the president. I know Mr. Eastman laughed about it. That's a William V.S. Todman time kind of notion to say, oh, when the president says something, everybody must shut up. No, that's not the world we live in. People can be more popular than the president. I don't believe that George Weah is more popular than the president, because if he was, he wouldn't have lost the elections, right? I believe President Boakai, at the election time at least, was more popular than President Weah. But at this moment in time, 200-300 people going to welcome me at the airport is not a crime. The way that the police responded to it was unreasonable, uncivil, and they instigated the violence that we saw in the first place. Because again, going back, and thankfully James is here and he can clarify, but he said words that's what they were using, and two, that this place he's unsure whether it was always restricted or is it just because of CDC.
Thank you. And let me announce to the public, you are free to be, Jimmy, you can be more popular than the CEO here. That's fine with me. I wouldn't punish you for that. Dr. Mali, let me give you 15 seconds there to make your point quickly. And James, you will come into, because to clarify anything that you said.
I think the records speak for themselves. CDC, if CDC perceives the police to be a Joseph Boakai police, definitely their ability to render homage or respect the police at any time and anywhere will always be eroded. CDC is on record of most of the time operating beyond rule of law. These are militants, all right? And so when the police have the mindset that sedition don't conduct themselves in a civil manner, I have not seen it before, and going to the airport that has this international characteristic, people are coming in, people are going out, and sedition have the mindset that the police will come, and the police have the mindset that these are militants. Obviously, if line is drawn and you go beyond that line, you should be penalized.
So you are saying it's a perception.
We are not running a banana republic.
Dr. Mallory, you are saying there's a perception issue. CDC perceive the police as a regime police, and the police perceive CDC as troublemakers. Is that what you are hearing from you?
This is what's going on in the first place. Let us not forget that we are running a terror system or a terror country. All right.
What does that mean?
That means we are not at par with so many expectations. That's the first thing. All right. People going to that place, 200 people, those are normal things. We shouldn't even be encouraging this type of thing in the first place. Dr. Buddha said.
And where do we draw the line?
I come in. He said, when you go in to meet people, you don't need to get permit. Look at the kind of a volatile situation we have in Liberia. These people have not seen themselves as our rival. They're not even looking at the country anymore. People want proof of point. So it's about time we put some of these things under control. Even though it's good, but because of the nature and the spot, all the tensions are taking place, I don't think it's necessary. So if the police went there, they are there to enforce the law. I don't think a normal police will just get on and jump on a group of people and start beating them. No. I want to believe strongly that probably there was a red line, and sedition, I know, sometimes they become terribly defiant. I have interacted with a whole lot of them. We cannot be running a civil society like this. Sometimes they become very defiant, and to the point where sometimes they want to fight. That era has passed. Listen to the police. This is the state police. This is the country police. Listen to them and let's move forward. And Ismail said, my brother Ismail said, yes, the police is supposed to be for everybody. I agree with him 100%. You see? But if you're not operating within the confine of being an accepted personality, as everybody does, fine, we're going to deal with you. We're not running a banana republic.
Thank you. Dr. Malo, you are right. That's why they want fairness. The same way you treat me, that's the same way you should treat the other people. The issue here people are complaining about is what you are doing to me, you are not doing it to other people. So, but let me hear from James. James, there's a history here. The last time the CDC people were meeting, even in their headquarters, there was heavy police presence. What is causing this tension between the police and mainly CDC? And why is it that when other group meeting, like the Unity Party, the police is not as edgy? Is it because the rest of the people behave better than CDC? Hold on, let me.
Tension are escalate here. Serious tension are escalate right here. One person has been arrested, and the arrest of one person. They have arrested an individual here. They have arrested one of the opposition. They have been arrested. What happened? What happened? One person has been. What happened?
To those of you familiar with the airport,
that the grass at the red line, you can't go in grass no more.
Let me I mean, James, for those familiar with the RIA, what do you glean from those video footages? James, you were there.
Yeah, so has the police IG has always stated that these gatherings, when you see the presence of police officers, it is meant to ensure safety and maintain public order. These are statements or some of the things that they will always say to the public when it happens. But what I can say is that as you saw the supporters there, a lot of them were not directly at the airport, so I cannot speak directly as to why were they pushing the protest. As I said, some of the reasons why they attributed that to is that the protesters said words at them, provocative words, and then they chanted slogans, that might have provoked the police officers to have acted or reacted the way they did. But one of the things I noticed is that during the protest, the protest that was organized by Moba Malu's 10, the police was very calm, relaxed, and professional. There were people who said things at them during that time. I mean, I was there before the CDC headquarters back then, and people even came up placard before the police, intimidating the police, but they did not do anything. They remained calm and professional, guarding their post and awaiting any action that will be contrary to disrupting the peace, right? But unlike this other case, you see that the police is moving on the civilians, supporters, and that will make an individual to question what is the intent of the police. And I don't think that area should be a restricted area, especially considering it is very far from the airport itself, and that it does not cause any harm to any equipment, material, or whatever that might have been, related to the airport management. So, yet again, when you ask the police agent during his press conferences about these the police presence at these gatherings of CDC, they will always tell you that it's meant to maintain public order and ensure that the country is peaceful.
Thank you. Let me. Alfonso, what
Guys
do
are
you see?
acting like they're going to war.
What I say is this. First of all, I think Dr. Bodie doesn't understand why permits are required. Permits are not required only for demonstrations. There's a reason, there's a purpose why permits are required. Permits are required so that a group of people do not disrupt or violate the rights of other people. So 200 people don't just gather in one place in a street and say, we're just here to welcome somebody, so we don't need a permit. So Alfonso, who's leaving, smell notice and trying to go, can I go through? His right is being violated as well. That is the reason to say permit. And I think James and Mali also hit on that point. The safety and security of other citizens as well. There are other human beings there who are not in your protest, who are not there to welcome people, who also have rights. The same freedom movement we talk about. Their rights need to be protected also. That is the reason why permits are required. It's not only when people are protesting, it's when people are gathering in a place or undertaking an action that has the propensity to violate the rights of other people who are not participating in that gathering or in that activity. I wanted to make that clear. Yeah. And I wanted you to ask James if there was any breach of any barricade, because I believe he said that, and the issue was whether this barricade existed only for CDC people. I think that was the issue. The issue was not that he said they use words, but they also crossed a line. And our discussion was whether this line has always existed for everybody. I didn't hear that in his last comment.
James, did you say that in your last word? That he said that plane was far from the airport, so he didn't believe. But go
That's
ahead,
not
James.
the point. Whether a line was set or not, I think let's make that clear. Whether far from the airport, right at the airport, was a police line set. I believe he said that from the beginning.
And that the assumption is the police can set line anywhere they want.
Yeah, so definitely that was done by the police. They set up the barricade, or they set up restricted areas. So of course, in those cases, definitely they will normally set up lines where supporters or citizens can use, or they will tell you that, okay, since you came to support your candidate or to welcome your candidate, you can use this route, but do not cross this line, or do not cross this area. But then well, again, as I said, that is a bit cringe to a lot of journalists who cover the event, especially considering the fact that it is a very open area, not a congested area, and looking at the fact that those people were just peaceful and they went to welcome their political leader. But also looking at public safety, like you saw vehicles moving, you saw motorbikes and other moving across that route. So perhaps the police decision could have been based on the fact that there are other people who will be moving or traveling that route, and especially you have people also coming to the country from other countries, into Liberia. So there are so many factors to look at as well.
Thank you. Thank you.
Sorry, Dennis. I think I should get 30 seconds on this as well, right? Because
it'll be 15 seconds.
Yeah. Dr. Mali had 15 seconds and he spoke for 5 minutes, so I think that applies to me. No, but the situation here.
I think Mr.
Hold on, Dr. Mali. Let me continue. We have to move on. We have 13 minutes to be off of Kia Radio.
Okay. Yeah. So the issue here is Mr. Yenu is insisting that these people needed a permit. What he's basically saying is every time I go to the airport to welcome someone I love or someone I care about, I should go to the Ministry of Justice to collect a document. That's what he's basically saying. That because these guys were not protesting, they went there to welcome someone that they care about. Yes, their volume is enlarged. There is nothing in our constitution or any of our penal laws that says the volume of a welcome party should be 10. Or the volume of a welcome party should be 15, or it should be 2. That doesn't exist in any law in our country. How many people go to welcome a person is not controlled by the Liberian government. Again, the videos that Dennis showed clearly illustrates that there was no obstruction of traffic, right? Needing the kind of force the police were using. There were no violation of the rights of other people. Right, so there is, they are to persist down that line clearly suggests maybe a completely different motivation for supporting the actions of the police, which was not correctly done.
Thank you, and I think we should all come to the point that the police is the police. We expect the police to maintain law and order. The only issue that is of contention is the police should be fair. Today they are meeting Judge Weah. Tomorrow they're going to go meet President Boakai. Are we going to have different set of standards when it comes to the kind of politician? Like in the words of Dr. Mali, if it is the president, it should be different. If it's regular ordinary citizen, it should be different. We expect the police to be fair in the execution of its duties. But let's move on to the fire. There's fire reported, and some call it, it is typical in the country for people to jump to a conclusion. By the time there was fire, other people were saying, hey, it's in the bedroom, it's pipe bomb, and all that. And the fire was, I think, it was investigated swiftly. And James, you can add to what I'm going to say here. You are on the ground, and the fire service came up with the cause of fire. Why the fire happened, what caused it. James, give us some rundown on that whole fire incident and where are we now as I'm speaking to you?
Yeah, so that fire incident occurred very early in the morning at the former president's Nashville residence, where the fire service received information of that incident, and they promptly responded to it. But then before that, some residents from the area had gone there to help the former president to have the fire cut off. And after the fire service responded, they went there, they helped reinforce the efforts of the residents who were there already. And they, after everything that morning rather, they came up with a preliminary findings, and they have attributed that the cause of the fire to electrical shock in the area. So, as you may have heard, it happened in the bedroom of the former president. And from the preliminary investigation, they said they believe that it is due to electrical shock. But however, one of the shocking things is that they also said they were prevented from having access to the area to further conclude or further have a detailed investigation about what led to electrical shock, and a lot of things that will inform them to make a conclusion of the investigation. So right now, that's the conclusion. That's where the preliminary findings or report has informed the media. And this was further communicated by the Deputy Minister for Press and Public Affairs, Daniel Sano, today at the press conference, that it is very shocking that the fire service investigators were prevented, though they did not state who prevented them, and when were they, prevented from having access to the home of the former president. But they just said that they were prevented. The investigators were prevented. So I'm sure that could not have led them to go further with their statement in telling Liberians what led to electrical shock or how did it come about. But before that, just to add up, CDC issued a statement. Before that, the party issued a statement terming the incident that it was a calculated attempt. That's in their own words, by some people they believe to be from the government, and they are calling for international and independent investigation into the matter.
Thank you. How did the fire service come to the conclusion if they were not permitted to enter the premises? Do you know?
That's one of the questions that Aaron had to we asked the Deputy Minister for Press and Public Affairs, and the only response we got was they believe that is the cause, because that is from their initial intervention during the incident, from the initial intervention or the initial entrance into the area. They believe that it might have been caused by electrical fault or electrical shock in the area.
Jimmy, is this? I mean, a lot of things happening. President Weah returning. There is a jubilation, triumphant entry. Now he's talked about building the headquarters. He talked about people are expecting him. This is a comeback of 2029. The same night is at the rehab residence on 99th Street. There is fire in the bedroom. Many fire, but most of the time, this fire will just consume the whole building. This fire was cut off. Now right away they say, "Oh, somebody's trying to attack the president," and all kinds of. This is the first, probably the swiftest preliminary findings of fire in our recent history by the Liberian National Fire Service. What is different about this fire?
Well, what is different? Definitely, we don't have a definite professional account of what happened. We don't see pictures to reinforce the narrative of what might have happened, and I find that very strange that in such an incident that you don't have pictures and you don't have a professional statement from the fire service. That allows a whole lot of rumor spreading, gaslighting. I noticed. I read the response from the CDC, and they said they claim it was an attack on the former president's residence. So that is a very strong claim, especially when it's not backed by evidence. So just like Dr. Malley said, we don't want to run an old banana republic here. If the way we do these things is to make sure we provide professional evidence and accountability when such things happen, so that no one can spread rumors that will further, that will cause people to be concerned. And we have to encourage our people, to exercise constraint. And up to now, I'm really surprised why I have not seen anything. No pictures, no proper account. So it leaves room for a lot of speculation.
Yeah.
And for our small republic, fragile peace, we want as much transparency and accountability as possible. So I would urge those who have a proper account, and even the president himself. You notice the former president is a very peace loving man. So let him quell the fears of his supporters if there's nothing really sinister happened in this case, and it was just a electrical accident.
Right. Alfonso, this is very important. I mean, I don't know who is stopping law enforcement from carrying on investigation, but a lot of things happening here. A lot of people are suspecting this, suspecting that. People are jumping to conclusion. It's not clear. Well, what's your read in this fire case? And I one time said, fire should be declared as a what? You know, this fire thing is just too much, too many, and we only know it when it's happening to big people. Fire burning everywhere in Monrovia almost on a daily basis. But one of the big shots we got to hear about.
Yeah. So definitely, it's an epidemic that needs to be addressed, and the government has a role to play. Individual citizens also have a role to play. We have to be careful in terms of who we hire to run our electrical lines. We have to be careful in terms of how we use appliances in our homes. When you overload things, it causes shock. When you bring a quack to run your wire, you run the risk of a problem. When you install, and I'm not saying this is what happened, but if you install a solar panel inaccurately, it could lead to fire. Recently, maybe a week or so ago, the home of the NSA director was burned to the ground. My understanding is that it was due to a problem with the solar panels that were being used, the solar panel system. Now, let's go back. So it's twofold. It really is twofold. We citizens ourselves have to be responsible in terms of how we use electricity, what we tap into, how we tap into it, and then, of course, the firefighting, which is really just an intervention part of it. The fire at Weah's 9th Street residence. The question was, how did the fire service know? I think that clarity needs to be made. How did the fire service get to the point that it could have been an electrical shock? According to the fire service report, which I read, the fire service arrived at that conclusion when they went to put out the fire. They went to put out the fire, they saw the source of the fire. And knowing the source of the fire, they determined that it's likely that it was an electrical shock. They then went back after that night. I read a report. They arrived at 12 something a.m. They left around 2 something a.m. after the fire was extinguished. They then went back the following day to do a thorough investigation to determine the cause of fire beyond the preliminary findings. That's when they were prevented from entering. So the question about, well, they were prevented, then how did they know? That's not a legitimate question, because they enter and put out the fire. That's how they determined that the preliminary cause could have been electrical shock. Not conclusive. They went back the following day and they were stopped. I think let's clarify that, because people have a tendency, when you criticize, when you turn in, then somehow you are a great advocate, then you're an opposition leader, and let's get away from that. We have one country. Secondly, without any evidence, I cannot conclude whether the CDC is wrong that somebody set fire to Weah's bedroom or whatever. The only way we can determine that is through an investigation. And if they want international people to do an investigation, I don't think the government is going to stop anybody from bringing an expert into the country to do investigation on their own home. That can happen. They can pay for it and do it. I don't think the government of Liberia should pay to bring international experts to do such an investigation if they do not respect that a government institution that put out a fire can do an adequate investigation.
Dr. Buri.
Well, I agree with most of the things that Mr. Yenu said, but on that last point, I think I differ. I think George Weah is a former president. George Weah is the leading opposition politician in Liberia. So yes, if we need to get to the bottom of it, similar to what we did with the Capitol building, we didn't trust our own fire service to be able to make a determination because we understood the political ramifications of the outcome. Similarly, if people are trying to use politics, so if the CDP are trying to use politics here for something that should not involve politics, then it's in the interest of national security to say, okay, let's bring someone independent in to verify if you're saying that whatever conclusions the fire service has come up with is not acceptable, right? Because again, this is a politically sensitive matter, like the Capitol fire burning was also. So I disagree on that point, but everything prior to that, I totally agree with.
James, if we still have you, can you allow a few calls before you leave?
Yeah, sure, definitely. Few calls, maybe one or two. So 077-959-959, 077-959-959-0881, 871-670, 077-959-959, 077-959-959, 0881-871-670 are the numbers to call and let's hear from you. 077-959-959, 077-959-959, 0881-871-670 are the numbers to call and let's hear from you on the program. Focus on that. We have somebody here. Welcome. Let's hear you.
Hello.
Anyway, where do you call from?
Travis Cameron call from Modonkono, Georgia.
Okay, please go ahead.
Yeah, my brother, the fire issue about the former president house, a big confusion because the fire service information to the public is that, the fire got in the bedroom. It got out in the bedroom of the former president. So how can they come out and accuse, the ruling party that they're responsible for the fire outbreak and all of those things? So it's big confused. But we hope and pray that the needful will be done so that we are more complete, out of this country so that our peace will be maintained and see how best we can move our country forward. We are going a long way on undeveloped. So let we forget about the kind of teach politics and focus how we can, spend a lot of this country. That's my own contribution. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Let's hear from you. 077-959-959, 077-959-959, 0881-871-670, 0881-871-670, 077-959-959, 077-959-959. Let's hear from you. Yep.
Dr. Malik, obviously our fire service does not have the capacity. I interview expert firefighters here and they say, look, we can't put up any fire. But I think it's about time that the fire service, devote more time to prevention, distributing, doing everything you can to prevent these things than trying to. And James, you can cut me off anytime there's a caller. What's your take on this thing that's happening now? Moreover, especially, it's burning fire every time.
Well, the issue of fire.
Okay, we have another person here. Welcome. Let's hear you.
Hello.
Your name and where do you call from?
My name is Akana.
Okay.
I'm calling from Yellow Building.
Okay, go ahead.
You see, that fire issue, one thing that I am really thinking of.
Yeah, go ahead, you're live.
President, his place. I don't think any opposition member or what will be able to enter that man's bedroom. So you have to think over it seriously.
Okay. Thank you. 0247-959-959, Let's see whether we get the last call, and then the people are back to go. Okay, this last person, welcome.
Hello?
Tell me, where do you call from?
I'm calling for 17.
Okay, go ahead, please.
Yeah, I'm hearing that voting is not possible for somebody to enter. But we are listening to favor things that have been happening in this country. So, local President Totmo, how people kill President Totmo?
What?
People enter in the bedroom to fall out of things, and people don't know. So, the police need to investigate what is actually taking place.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you so kindly. That's it for now. Yeah, so it's back to you. I think we out of time. The guy is someone back now.
Thank you.
Okay, let's squeeze the person for 30 seconds. Yeah, 30 seconds, please. Go ahead. 30 seconds.
What do you mean?
What do you call from? 30 seconds, please.
Is there much?
They went off, unfortunately. So yeah, so the opposite went off, unfortunately, so we have to go because of time.
All right, let me
Please announce yourself.
Let me bring one caller online. Caller, your name and where you calling from.
Joe Williamson.
And identify yourself as sedition. We want to hear that too.
I'm Joel Williamson. I'm Liberian.
All right, go ahead, Joe. You're live.
Okay. Yes, I've been listening to the deliberations and the various ideas. On the case of the fire, let me take that first. I would ask that we all have cooler heads, and rather than taking sides or trying to insinuate what actually went wrong, and let the fire service, let the government security apparatus, let them come up with that, with the investigation, then we can see what happens. We all owe Liberia. It's our collective responsibility to ensure that the image of Liberia is put forward in a very good way. For us to be insinuating that this happened to the president, or this was electrical when we don't have the fact, it's all wrong. We need to just relax, take a deep breath, and let the investigation pursue and take its full course. Thankfully, the former president was not hurt. He was not there, and nobody was hurt. It's property damage, and we're sad that happened. It just shows us that our country needs to be, we need some very, very basic services to be restored and active in our country of 5 million people. That's one of the things that this showed us. As to the president, coming and being welcomed at the airport by civilians, I think the police was actually not justified in their overzealous pursuit of the people who went to welcome the president. When you go welcome people, you don't need a weapon of protest. You don't need a permit. So I think the guy who was talking to you, someone saying that they need a permit or whatnot, it's actually misleading. It's misleading. Dr. Bullitt said something which, look, you can be 1,000 coming to meet the person. You don't need a permit for that. The police can set up a barricade and say, okay, and do traffic issues. People coming from the airport can pass. The people, strangers coming to Liberia and see Liberians able to freely assemble. It's a good thing when it comes to people being free to assemble. It's not a bad thing. I don't think the sedition was being very rude or uncontrollable there. The second thing, there's so many things going on that the former president cannot use the VIP lounge at the airport. These are all these kind of pettiness of our politics that plagues our nation. We need to sit back and understand. This is a guy who, unlike people in Africa who will manipulate elections, before the thing was even dry, called Boakai and said to him, call President Boakai, and conceded. I was in a meeting there where some people thought it was wrong. And this man, because of peace, he did that. And some of the things are being done. It's politics. We need to stop. We need to slow down and allow us to live like one nation, indivisible under God.
Thank you. And Dr. Mali, I want you to give your comments there, and then we will close the broadcast with our concluding statements. Dr. Mali, my question to you is, I mean, with all this fire thing, what can be done? Because, in my village, they say when there is storm, when you throw the other big tree, we call it core. When you throw core down, nobody talk. But when you throw the cooler, you knock down the cooler tree, everybody start complaining. Now the cooler tree catch on fire, we're talking about. What about the other small trees that have been falling? So what can we do?
Oh, well, first of all, we need to understand that this particular sector is underdeveloped and underfunded. And this is a sector, Ja and the rest of the panelists, we know how fire is handled in this country. An extensive awareness is necessary. Fire extinguisher, I don't even know whether the people know about these things down there. I don't even know. Okay, fire drill. Okay, even our communities are not even laid out properly for fire truck to pass around and navigate. You see, even the issue of water is a problem. So my suggestion here is that seditions are our brothers, but they need at some point in time to lower the temperature and not to just jump to conclusion that this thing was cynical and someone was behind it, And lastly, if the government arm came to carry on an investigation, there should be no obstruction so that we get to the bottom of this thing. This is the former president. You see, he need all the respect he deserves. And so when something happens and the government agency has come to investigate, I think President Weah should also allow that investigation to be thorough so that we want it to be thorough so that we expel speculation and lies and rumors.
Thank you. I don't know why even an investigation is supposed to depend on him. But Dr. Malo, remember now in the Capitol building fire, people also jumped to conclusions. So this is not a sedition thing, right? By the time the fire happened at the Capitol building, right there, even the president said this is awesome. Right there, people started pointing finger at the Funati Kofa fashion. That's just information. But gentlemen, I thank you. I want us to conclude. We've touched on many issues. So as we conclude, let's just say, the way forward as a way, because every time we talk, people want to hear from us. So what do we think? We can't always talk about the issues. Let's advance workable solution. And let me give the floor to Mr. Alfonso, to be the first to give his closing comments.
Thank you, and thanks to everybody here. I think it was a very animating and resourceful and educational conversation. So I want to thank everybody for that. I think what needs to happen in Liberia is this: the rights of everybody needs to be respected and protected. But with every right comes responsibility. And we also need to understand that we have civic responsibilities to our communities and to our country. It should not always be about scoring political points and doing whatever you can do to win the next election. What that does is that it just undermines everything. The government, we should hold their feet to the fire and make sure that they do the right thing. We as citizens, opposition political parties must be responsible as well. Political parties are formed to serve a purpose, to serve the people. They're not just there for political power. And they shouldn't just be bent on doing anything and everything they can do to win political office, because that undermines the country and that undermines the people. So it's very important that that we internalized this. And I want to pat on these points that we all have responsibilities, just as the government does. We citizens do as well, and we should do all we can to keep the peace and to advance our democracy. Thank you.
Thank you. Dr. Budi, you're closing.
You're muted.
You're still muted.
Yeah, so I hope the statement by the honorable man is applied fairly to everyone, because it seems to be targeting a certain group of people. But look, at the end of the day, the facts are the facts. I think the way the police behave was unacceptable. And as James said, when Stan, for example, he gave the Moluba Molu example, were protesting, and this was not welcoming somebody at the airport. The police stood by, took a lot of abuse, and did nothing. And that's how they should act. Unless there are clear violations of the law, people should be allowed to go about their normal businesses. I don't believe that going to the airport to welcome someone is a campaign strategy. So I don't know how that can be seen as trying to win an election. But on the issue of the diaspora conference, and I know, Dennis, you and I interviewed Dr. Don, and one of the things I said to him was I was going to hold my criticism until we see the outcome of it and give people time to implement those outcomes, right? So that's what I want to see. I want it to be very robust in terms of the outcome, and then put in place a team of individuals who can ensure that those outcomes are implemented. It's great always to be here with you. Great to see you today, Dr. Mali. It's been a while. Always good to see the Eastman. And Dennis, thank you for having us on tonight as well.
Thank you, Dr. Mali.
Well, I just want to thank my fellow panelists, and at least we were able to do some justice to the various topics tonight. But my disappointment stems from the diaspora thing. I think the Unity Party made some terrible error, getting totally involved with the creation of the diaspora arm to in the executive mansion and bring in Dr. Don in to head this conference. I think they should have just left it to Liberian to come up with something. Government can fund them, because now it tends to bring some form of split in the diaspora right now, especially with Eula and the other people. People have different saying. And lastly, with the police, I think the police is under obligation to respect all Liberians, including seditionists, and equally so, sedition, including all Liberians, should be able to respect the police. These are our police. I don't hold the view that it's a Joseph Boakai police. So when they come and say, look, you can stand there and do your chanting, fine. You see, when you don't cross the line, I think we need to, because at the end of the day, we are all interrelated somehow, some way. You see, so there should be a balance in that area there. Like Mr. Eastman said, I mean, the police should be neutral. I agree to that 100%. You see, and so the dispensation of their job, they should also be neutral. How they go about doing it. Thank you. And lastly, lastly, they reform. I think there's a need for a reform. The huge gathering is sometimes put fear in the whole community in our place. It could be Joseph Boakai group, it could be sedition, it could be ANC group. You see the kind of army of people coming to the airport, an investor coming to the airport down there. It carry a lot of story to them. What happening? Are they ready to fight in this place? There are all kinds of things. So there's a need for us to start looking at some reformation about this whole delegation going to the airport.
And Dr. Mali, when it comes to the sitting president, it's even worse, right? Because when the sitting president, either Judge Weah or Joseph Boakai is coming, do you know that there is a complete shutdown of the government? That the money we pay them to work for us, they leave the work and go to the airport. And during the Weah time, they used to have this, that if you don't go, Those guys there will tell on you, and by the time you get there, the president won't see you. So there's the Tubman style, godfather politics. What Tubman left with us is still here. And to reform it, it starts with the president. Jimmy, you're closing.
Yeah, good talk. I like the way we treated the issues. Going to these UN visits to travel abroad, just we said, a cost benefit analysis is definitely should be put in place, but also it should proceed coordinated and a plan and a goal. We look forward to see a national plan from this administration so that we all can fall under the umbrella. When it comes to the police handling, it was a delicate situation, and it was a tricky situation because you have a large group of people going to the airport, which is a matter of concern. There are all kinds of security concerns there. At the same time, you do not want to appear as a regime organization. You want to be neutral to and fair to all. So it is a difficult situation, and it's something that has to be reviewed, and we may need to make policy, like Dr. Malley alluded to, how we're going to regard such things happening. I think we need to turn down the tension. I'm all for democracy, but we do not have to have a violent or democracy where we inflict bodily harm on one another. And lastly, the fire incident, like I said, without some clarification of exactly what happened, it's hard to render judgment. But and I do believe that our fire service is capable of assessing whatever damage there is properly, but given no access, we're left to is inconclusive. So I'm glad the former president, was protected. Nothing happened to him, and because it doesn't reflect well. I think we'll be seeing a lot of stuff coming in the future as the 2029 election draw near. So this is just the tip of the iceberg. But it was a great show.
Thank you. Join us tomorrow, 7:30 for Friday Night Debate, where we're going to talk more politics and more policy issues. Until then, we close with our song that says, "We are all Liberians." Have a good night, and God bless you. Thank you, gentlemen.
We are Liberians. Liberia is our home.